Thank you, Chair. Thank you, witnesses, for being here today. It, of course, is an unignorable fact that we're gathering here one business day after the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that the cornerstone piece of legislation governing the regulation of resource projects and its sweeping and wide net catching many other projects and intervening in jurisdictions. We know that is the case today. It's inescapable that we have you here to answer questions in that context, which demonstrates just how much uncertainty has been created in the last 8 years of this government. Mr. Kruger, you mentioned that you have worked in 20 countries in your long career as an expert in this field. I wonder if you would expand on your perspectives and your comments on the role of Canadian oil and gas in the world, Canada's opportunity both domestically and internationally, and the importance of clarity and certainty for private sector proponents to meet those aims.
I have worked in more than 20 oil and gas producing countries around the globe: Southeast Asia, Middle East, former Soviet Union, West Africa, and North America over the course of my nearly 40-year career. And the last 7 years of my career were here in Canada. And when I look at what I see about not only what we do, but how we do it, whether it's human rights, personnel safety, environmental protection, the responsibility within which this industry applies to developing its natural resource in Canada, I can without hesitation say I believe the world is a better place if the incremental barrel of oil comes from Canada than most anywhere else I've ever worked. I retired 3.5 years ago from the industry, and I chose to come back earlier this year because I believe in the industry, I believe in Canada, I believe in Canadians, and I believe we can punch above our weight by not only lowering the emissions and carbon content of what we produce here and providing it at home, but also providing it abroad.
Thank you. And to your point, the comments that you made about Suncor's commitments to reducing emissions and all of the innovation and investment that Suncor has made, both in terms of being a catalyst 20 years ago for wind and solar operations that are now owned by another proponent, but including also, you just mentioned, continuing to contribute with the largest ethanol plant serving the entire country. I wonder if you do want to expand and clarify more about the comments and your actual perspective and Suncor's position in terms of its core businesses and also all its contributions to improved environmental stewardship and innovation in the future.
Well, thank you. Our view of the future and our commitments haven't changed. Our commitments to decarbonizing our existing base hydrocarbon business and our commitments to being a part of the longer-term transition, over time. And I appreciate the question because I think part of the basis upon which I was called here today dealt with comments that I made in August on an investor call. And the analogy I would use of what my comments said is when I was coming out of retirement, going to come back to work, I went to my family doctor and said, I'm going to give up some years of my life to work again. I want to live a long and healthy life. What's the best advice you can have? He said, to live a long and healthy life, take care of yourself today. My comments on our earnings call looked at our company and said, for us to be a part of the solution for the long term, we have to do today's business very well. And if you look back at the track record over the last several years of Suncor, that can't be said. We have opportunities to improve the safety, the operational integrity of our business so that we can continue our decarbonization efforts and being part of the transition for the longer term. So when I made a comment, I think explicitly I said we have a bit of a disproportionate emphasis on the future. It was to ensure we're strong today so we can be strong tomorrow. Our commitments on decarbonization and being part of the transition have not changed at all since I've taken over in this position 6 months ago.
Thank you for that clarification. Do you have any additional comments, particularly juxtaposing the Canadian policy and fiscal and regulatory framework around energy and resource development against, for example, Canada's biggest competitor and customer, the United States, as well as other of the, say, top 10 major energy producing regimes around the world, the majority of which, of course, are state-directed regimes. Do you have any comments about the importance or the damage, for example, of after 8 years, the combination of policy uncertainty, but also what has become a layering and layering of taxes and bans and standards and hammers with almost no incentives, and what that does to Canada's competitiveness and the role that we can play to secure energy self-sufficiency and security for our own citizens, as well as play that crucial and I think moral obligation Canada has internationally to provide both our technology and our best produced products to other countries around the world.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot to that question, so let me step back. I think, one of the things capital markets look for is a reasonable return for a reasonable risk. And when you think of what's important to capital markets and major investments, we look for a level of predictability and stability, or certainty. If the hurdle is set a certain height, that's fine. We just want to know that it's not a moving target. And I think one of the challenges that we face here and have faced here for some time now is a bit of the unpredictability and uncertainty, which then it is, quite frankly, it scares away capital. And with the resources and the opportunity I think the country has, and with the what I believe a leadership position we can take both home and abroad, I applaud any efforts to get a greater level of predictability, certainty, so those of us that participate in the capital markets can do what we do best, bring technology, bring investment dollars to develop the resources of this great country.
Mr. Kruger, thank you. That's over the time allotment, and we'll move to the next round of questions.